I know. Morning, everyone, and welcome to our Heavenly Parent Holy Community Oceania Hundoke. And today we have a special guest, Joanna Hartl from the UK. And today is Sunday, the 26th of December, or the 23rd of November in the 9th year of Chongyilguk. Let's begin, as always, with a bow to our Heavenly Parents and true parents. Chariot, Kyombe, Paro. And let's recite our family pledge, both in Korean and English. Thank you.
가족맨세 6. 전일국 주인 우리 가족은 참 사랑을 중심하고 한일 부모님과 참 부모님의 대신 가정으로서 전을 움직이는 가정이 되어 하늘의 축복을 주변에 연결시키는 가정을 완성할 것을 맹세하나이다.
Family pledge number 6. Our family, the owner of Chongyilguk, pledges to become a family that moves heavenly fortune by embodying the heavenly parent and true parents, and to perfect a family that conveys heaven's blessing to our community by centering on true love. I'd like to ask Mark Burfield if you could offer the opening prayer, please.
Please join me in prayer. Good morning, our dearest Heavenly Parent and beloved true parents. We greet you this new day. This is the 26th of December, the day after Christmas. So over this time period, we've been reflecting on the birth of our Lord Jesus Christ, and we come together each morning to connect our hearts with you and with our true parents and with each other. And we want to make a good offering each day, and as also we at this time sharing and connecting with our true mother as she pioneers and creates a foundation for the substantiation of Chongyilguk. So we want to play our part, however small it might be, in supporting our true mother and supporting the providence as we march towards the providential years of 2027 and before that 2023, and even this year, this coming year 2022, with the reunification of North and South Korea. We thank you that we have this chance to meet each day. We look forward today to the testimony from Joanna Hartl, National Messiah to Palau. Thank you for this new day. I offer this prayer in the name of Mark and Masako Berfield, the blessed central family. Adieu.
Adieu. Adieu. And let's give a warm welcome to Joanna as she shares with us this morning. Thank you.
Well, good morning, everybody, and I'm very honoured to be here and delighted to speak to all of you. And some of you I know very, very well, and some I don't know at all. So it's a case of old friends and new. So I'm hoping to make many new friends today. So thank you very much for inviting me. I just want to give a little bit of a backstory before I actually start talking about Palau itself, as to how we got there as a family and why, and what the motivation behind it was. And I'm sure you're all aware a little bit about the National Messiah Providence, but perhaps each couple or each family who went has their own special story behind it. So just to give you a little bit, very briefly, about the background of that, we were living in Germany as a family, my husband, myself, and our daughter, who's at the time, she was aged 2.5 when we moved to Palau. And the National Messiah Providence began, I think, for the Koreans and Japanese much, much earlier, by several months, maybe even a whole year, than it did for European members. So for Korean and Japanese, it already started, I believe, at somewhere near the end of 1995 and 1996, it kind of got rolling along. So many Korean national messiahs had already been on 40-day workshops, already received their country, and some had already moved. And but not everybody. So by the time it was getting towards the end of 1996, I can't actually remember the month, but for any time from July, August onwards, it was a very special time, and I felt very, very strongly the presence of God and spirit world, and began to have every day a picture in front of me, and I couldn't get rid of the picture. And it was True Father standing there with his arms outstretched, saying, "Come," like this. And it was as if it was one of those old photographs of him in an old suit from the 1950s, 60s or 70s, I don't know when, but you know, one of those ones where he's standing on a mountain giving sermons. And it was that kind of a vision of that time. And I had this very strong spiritual impression, well, we've got to go, you know, there's no chance, there's no choice. This is something Father wants. And this spiritual impression was so strong, it was very powerful. All day I would have this picture of Father in front of me, like I'm looking at you now. I would see True Father. There was no escape. And this went on for several months. I mean, this did not go away. It wasn't something you could shut your eyes and just forget about. It was continuously there with me. So I spoke to my husband, who said, "No way, I can't go. I'm not well enough." He was taking several different medications for different things. So we continued our lifestyle, and then one brother called Norbert Thiel from Germany came back from Haiti, where they'd been, and gave a wonderful testimony, very inspirational. And I got him to telephone my husband and speak with him. And then after that, Georg agreed, okay, he said, we'll go. So I was the first one to go on the 40-day workshop in Chongpyong, and he came then later. And from his workshop, I returned then to Chongpyong, and then we all flew together and went to Palau from there via Guam, which is where we first met Tim and Margaret Sisserson, and also Isako, the Japanese sister, who is helping very much with the mission there. So that was February 1997. So it's a long time ago. It's 25 years ago, really, when you think about it. My daughter was 2.5, now she's 27.5. So that, to me, that's 25 years anyway. I don't know the exact dates, but yeah, so we got to Guam on the way to Palau, and Margaret Sisserson and Tim Sisserson were there helping and giving us lots of encouragement, and we stayed there until we could catch our plane to get to Palau, which was either the next day or the day after. I've forgotten it, but I think it went 2 or 3 times a week anyway, but not very often. So that gave us a good introduction, and we got to Palau, and we were met by Margaret's relatives at the airport, which was a wonderful welcome. And I can honestly say that that foundation that the Sisserson family made for all of the national messiahs, it made a huge difference for us to be able to land with a firm footing, knowing that there was somewhere to stay, and this had all been prepared, and you know, we could be picked up at the airport. It was like being given the red carpet treatment. It was a wonderful experience, and just being brought down and, you know, taken to somewhere where you can automatically just move in and live there. It was absolutely fantastic. So I'm very, very grateful for that. So moving on from there, I can't actually remember so many details right from the very beginning, but the Korean National Messiah, Reverend Kim, he was there for most of the time that we were there, but not all of it. And my husband was going backwards and forwards to Germany. So quite a bit of the time it was me and Anna just on our own, but also the Japanese, the wife, the National Messiah wife, Yamazaki, her last name is, and her first name is I think
Kyoko.
Kyoko. Kyoko, was it?
Yes.
Yeah. So she was coming backwards and forwards, but at the beginning, I just remember we moved into this apartment in one area called Nesaul in Palau, and yeah, we just got acclimatized and started to live there. So it was just quite a challenge, I think, to be there to begin with. What I noticed initially was very much the presence of God and the spirit world. And this is something that I felt is, perhaps it had to do with the fact that we'd just come from Chungpyong, and the Chungpyong Providence was in full swing with the 40-day workshops. It could have been connected with that. And because of that, spirit world was so active. And I felt that everything we did was guided by spirit world and by God. And there didn't seem to be anything that wasn't connected with God and spirit world. Everything that happened for a reason and slotted in one thing after the other after the other. It was as if it had all been organized from above. So I was quite happy with that experience. So I felt very much that God and spirit world were with us, and I felt very, very close to nature as well. And I think that's partly because of the geographical location, but maybe also because of the spiritual situation that we were in, because you felt so open spiritually. I think it makes you feel closer to nature, so you can, at least that's my impression as well, you felt more close to the animals, plants and things around you than perhaps you would normally do. And things like seeing shooting stars at nighttime, experienced that quite a bit. And those were the sort of external impressions that really, for me, made a difference. And there were other sort of external things that I really liked about Palau. They didn't have any fences between the houses. And that was made a big, huge impression on me. Wow, people don't have fences around their houses. So, this is incredible. So little things like that made a huge impression on me. And I want to talk a little bit about some of the spiritual experiences that I had, or we had as a group. And one of them, I think, is quite meaningful. And it was when we went as a group. And when I say as a group, I'm talking about a group of National Messiahs. So Father had given the direction that all 4 families should live together and be able to unite with the Korean in the father position, the Japanese in the mother position, and the 2 children, Cain and Abel. So we were representing Cain. But there was one time when we were all together, and on this particular occasion, the Abel National Messiah, which was Peter Graham from England, myself representing the Cain, Kyoko representing Japan, and Reverend Kim from Korea, we went to the island of Palau. And on the particular evening that this spiritual experience happened, we had the group of Japanese missionaries. There was about, well, there was a group of about 14 altogether, but I don't know how many we had with us, maybe 6 or 7 of that group. And we were staying in a sort of communal house belonging to the community in Palau. And we'd been doing some kind of a prayer, and it was in the evening. And during this prayer, both Kyoko and myself had an experience. And the experience was with young soldiers from the Second World War. So I had the American soldiers come to me, and she had the Japanese soldiers come to her. And they said to us, they didn't know what they were doing. They were 17 years old, and they'd been killed there in Palau, presumably. And the message was they didn't understand anything, why they were there, what they were doing, and they just did it because they were soldiers and that was their job. And they had no idea what was happening. So we made a special prayer, and she prayed to send them back off to Chongpyong, which I thought was really great, you know, to get them to move on in the spirit world. So they were sort of, we tried to liberate them in that sense, to be able to be free to move on. But it was so powerful that you could feel their presence with you there. It was just incredibly powerful. And there were all sorts of spiritual experiences that happened, well, that happened to me anyway, at different times and different situations all the way through, because I just felt spirit world all the time. There wasn't one moment where I didn't feel the spirit world helping or guiding. And it was just an extraordinary time. So I remember if I prayed for something to happen, it usually happened, and I just expected it. It wasn't anything out of the ordinary that you'd pray for something and next day somebody would show up and give you the thing you'd prayed for, you know. It's just like, well, of course, why not? That's what we prayed for. I mean, not that it doesn't still happen today, it does, but at the time, I think it was, you were in such a spirit of alignment, this business about standing in the noonday sun, you know, without any shadow. It was not only a written down words, but it was actually baking hot over your head, so you felt it. So spiritually, you were aware of this, you know, don't have any shadows spiritually, but physically you were reminded of it every day because the sun was baking down on you. So that was a good thing. I don't know quite what else I should talk about, but I'll give some time for questions and afterwards. But there was some funny stories. So one of the funny stories, I think I'll tell you now, because Anna was so young, she was 2.5. Obviously she was growing, and you know, we were there for several years. There was one of the things I wanted to do was to witness to the person responsible for immigration, because I knew that our visas were not 100%, well, the word kosher, yeah, that we'd actually got our visa as a missionary visa, as a Unification Church member, but there wasn't actually officially in Palau a Unification Church registered. So we got a visa, but it wasn't officially legal. So I thought, well, okay. And we knew this, but we thought, well, if we've got the visa, there's nothing they can do. They can't kick us out, you know, because they've issued it, which was a miracle in itself. And again, I think Margaret had pulled strings in the customs with some cousin. But also I felt it was important to witness to the person responsible for the immigration and the customs, because if they were satisfied with us, you know, as a group, maybe they'd be in a good humor to let us stay if there were any problems. So that was the person who was a minister of justice. So I started to visit the prisoners in the prison, and got an introduction through a Palauan person, and he phoned up, and he'd been the school teacher of the Minister of Justice at the time. And he said, oh, there's this lovely lady who wants to do some educational work with the prisoners. You must see her. She's got lots of good ideas. So that gave me a kind of a foothold to go and visit the prisoners. And I used to go in and visit them as often as I could, sometimes every day, but at least 2 or 3 times a week. And I was teaching all sorts of things, from English, mathematics, history, geography, to divine principle, and giving holy wine and giving Sunday services. So it was quite substantial, even to the point where the chaplain, the prison chaplain, who was I believe from one of the Protestant churches, got quite upset and yeah, got to the point of being kicked out because he was so angry that I was coming in and doing stuff with the prisoners. Anyway, the long and the short of it was that because Anna was quite small, I didn't know that many people that I could get to babysit for her while she was that young. But I did have a few people who offered, but sometimes I just took her with me. So wearing a Palauan dress, which is a type of, looks a bit like a Spanish kind of dress in a way, and quite loose under the bust, quite, you know, flowing and loose. So she used to stand underneath my dress and we'd walk in together, and nobody said anything. And we did this for months. And the prisoners inside the prison used to love it. And when the guards came round, you know, they just turned a blind eye. They just said, it's okay. But in the end, I had to stop doing it because they said there might be some trouble. Somebody might report them, you know, so I had to start getting babysitters then. But it was a very good experience, that. And I think it raised the awareness level of a lot of the prisoners, to see that I, as a white person who was a non-Palauan, bringing my kindergarten age daughter in, that I didn't, you know, it didn't bother me at all. And I think that made them, you know, feel very, you know, they trusted me because I trusted them, sort of thing. I don't know if you can understand that, but that was the feeling. How much time have I got, John? How long do you want me to talk for?
You can, you have another 10 minutes, easy. Yeah.
Okay, 10 minutes. All right. So again, I'd just like to say that the foundation that Margaret's family had made, that Margaret and Tim and Margaret had made with her family, her nephew Kevin, and the apartment block where we lived was run by another relative, Henaro, and her sisters, Tua, Justa, and another one of whose name I can't remember. it was all, you know, you went everywhere and you met one of Margaret's relatives. So this was quite good. So it was a very good, because it's such a small place, so everybody knows everybody. So that's a couple of things. And then later on, another spiritual experience was when I was in Ibobang, which is a little village a bit further out. It's not in the capital city. It's on the coast. So you usually got there by boat or a very long, bumpy car ride. And it's where the Modikane people who believe that Jesus came to Palau and walked in this field where they built a school. They believe that Jesus was there and walked in this field, and that's a holy field for them. Anyway, we lived in this field in one of the huts, and these little wooden houses that belonged to the school. And the founder of their religion came and paid us a visit in the middle of the night from the spirit world. So he was in the corner of the room up on the ceiling looking down, and we could see him. You know, he's all in the nighttime spiritually, it's not physical, and we could see him, and he was just looking at us thinking, who the heck are you guys? You know, what are you doing here? And just observing us. So that was quite an interesting encounter to see him. And yeah, all sorts of experiences. And one of the houses where I was, we were living in a house at one point. Sorry, this is not chronological. I'm not able to remember the which you know, which order things happened in, but there was one time where we all ran out of money, and there was no funding, and either we were going to pack up and come back to Europe because we couldn't afford to rent an apartment, and we couldn't get any funding from anywhere, and it was kind of, everything had sort of dried up. So the guy who was one of the prisoners said, oh, you can stay in my old house. I've got an old house. Nobody's living in it. You can stay there. So I said, okay, right, where is it? So he described it to me, and it didn't make any sense whatsoever. I couldn't find the place. So I went back and I said to him, you know, I don't know where you mean. I had a look and I couldn't find anything. He said, okay. And then he asked permission from the prison guards so he could get out and come with me. And his wife came down and met us all in the car. So I followed them back to the house, and he arranged it with his mother. And so we all moved into this old house. It was a wooden house in the garden of where the family were now living, which was a huge, massive, great big mansion made of concrete, because the new houses were all concrete. So his family were very, very well off. I mean, they were, in Palauan terms, what we'd call millionaires, but obviously not millionaires, but they were one of the wealthy people. And he had several brothers, one of whom was a politician, and there were all sorts of backstories on that one, but I won't go into that. But while we were living in this house, I started to have experiences of the Japanese soldiers when in the Second World War, when they were being attacked by the Americans, they would throw sulfur bombs into the caves where the soldiers were hiding, and the Japanese soldiers would stay in there. They wouldn't come out. So they would suffer the effects of the sulfur bombs or whatever it was they used, which gave them blisters all over their body, and they just choked to death basically. But they would not come out of the caves that they were hiding in. And what I didn't know was where the house was built, where we were staying, was over all these tunnels which led into some caves. I had no idea about that. I didn't even know there were any caves nearby, but there was a series of tunnels leading underneath where that house was in the garden and going into some caves all the way around on the, it was sort of on a side of a hill. And this is exactly what had happened to some Japanese soldiers right there on that hill where we were, that they'd been, you know, the American soldiers had chucked the bombs in and gassed them basically. So one night, right at the beginning of staying in this house, I got the spiritual experience of how it was when you get gassed with this sulfur. So it was in the middle of the night, and I was having this sort of, I wouldn't call it a fit exactly, but it was similar to an episode, like a medical episode. I was having this medical episode in the middle of the night, feeling like I was choking to death and feeling like all my skin was getting blistered, although there weren't any blisters on my skin, but it was like the feeling was as if it was like that. And also within a few days later, Anna got blisters all over her body, and we couldn't figure it. We thought she got an allergy to fungus or something, which was on the walls, but it wasn't. It was that. Now I realize what it was. So it was very like spirit world was interacting with us all the time and giving this information. So when I reported this back to this guy whose name was Gandhi, whose house we were living in, and I went next time to the prison the following day, and I said, you know, I had this dreadful nightmare and this happened. And he says, oh, and I was explaining, I said, I think this is like something to do with the Japanese soldiers or something, because it came to me very strongly that this was to do with the Japanese, but I didn't know why. I couldn't figure out why. And he says, oh, didn't you know? I said, didn't I know what? He said that where that house was built was where they'd gassed all these Japanese soldiers. There's caves everywhere. I said, oh, I see. And then his brother had died in a motorbike accident, and he was buried outside the front door of the house. We used to go in the side door, but at the beginning we didn't know that he was buried outside the front door. We never used that entrance anyway. It was kind of locked up. And he came to me every single day and started talking to me. And this was weird, you know, but for 40 days I made some condition, and finally he went away at the end of the 40 days. So it was very, very spiritual. Lots and lots of spirit world things were going on. There's two other stories before I say any more, and then and these are about the water life. Now, when you're above ground, Palau can be quite bleak sometimes because of the heat, but underwater it's very beautiful. And I remember spending a lot of time swimming in the afternoon after school. I'd pick up Anna and take her swimming, and there's a place we used to go swimming, and on the left is the swimming place, and on the right was where some stingrays used to swim. And there was a man scuba diving with the on the right hand side where the stingrays were, and I said, is it okay to swim with them? And he said, yeah, don't go too near them, but you can make friends with them, and they'll treat you like one of their family. So I had this conversation with this diver, and I thought, well, why not? So I used to stand and lean over and basically rustle the water where the stingrays were, and they'd come along and I'd stroke the noses of the stingrays. And after a while I thought, well, why don't I just have a go and see if I can just swim in there with them? So I did, and it was just like being a member of the stingray family. There was mummy and daddy and baby stingray, and you could go along and just swim with them around. It was absolutely amazing. I didn't realize, of course, how dangerous it was. Everybody was telling me, oh, you'll get killed, you'll get killed. But to me, it was like, well, it's just natural, very natural experience. And so that was something unusual. And another thing was, we used to go down to where one end of the island in Irai, where the crocodiles, the saltwater crocodiles would swim around in the mangroves. But before I knew that there were crocodiles swimming there, I went swimming in it was a place you could launch boats, yeah, a small runway for boats. And I took Anna swimming there a few times in the middle of the day, you know, daytime or afternoon, whenever. And one day we came out of the water and this man said, did you know there's crocodiles around? I said, really? He said, yes, but mainly don't worry too much. They're in the mangroves. They don't usually come out until nighttime. You'll see them if you drive down at night and flash your headlights, you'll see them in the mangroves. So I thought, oh, interesting. So we used to do that when Annie used to wake up in the middle of the night and I couldn't get her to go back to sleep at like 3:30, 4 a.m., which happened a lot. I used to put her in the car, drive her down to this place, shine the headlights and say, come on, let's go and look at the crocodiles. And you could see their red beady eyes shining back at you in the night. But what I didn't know, of course, was how dangerous it was to swim there, because you could have got bitten by a crocodile. But I never did. So anyway, those were some funny stories. Some of the people we met, there was the Minister of Justice, Elias Chin, the guy that ran the newspaper. I thought, well, he's another good person to witness to. That was Moses Uludong, who became very, very well connected and very involved and positive. And there was a few other people, but I can't remember all of their names, and some of them weren't really so reputable after all. But anyway, so I think that about sums it up. You know, I'll throw it open for questions, really.
Thank you, Joanna. Thank you for joining us together here, and it's very grateful that you could come along. I remember Joanna from England a long time ago when I joined. She was there and fundraising, and I remember meeting Joanna and thinking, wow, she's a really strong, dynamic, determined person. And so thank you for coming.
And I thought this is a human cannonball, this John guy. He hasn't changed much. He just hasn't got any hair left, that's all.
That's right. Thank you. So yeah, I think before opening up the questions, I'd like to ask Tim and Margaret if they'd like to make a comment or add to the story.
Margaret first.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah.
Hi, Joanna.
Hi, Margaret. Happy Christmas.
Same to you. Merry Christmas. There's so many things I could say, but of time, I will limit it to what I think is the most important thing.
Yes.
Joanna was instrumental in starting the Family Federation bylaws. She wrote it herself and registered FFWPU for the first time. I think it was in 1997 under President Nakamura. Also witnessing to, she called in the time we didn't have emails. So I think she called or sent a letter to Guam saying, what do you think of Moses Uludong? How about I recommend him to go to, there was a conference in Washington Times as a media person. Now, my first reaction was Moses Uludong. Moses Uludong impregnated my sister while at the University of Guam and then left her and married another woman. So he was in the blacklist for me. And, but, you know, because I knew that Joanna has insight beyond time and space, I told her that you do what you think God is telling you to do. So lo and behold, she registered him and he went to Washington, D.C. for the media conference. And like she said, he became very instrumental in putting everything in the media thereafter. There was one time some negative evangelical put some negative things in the paper, Tiabelo, and Joanna marched into the office and demanded that they move that article. And Moses was so scared, he quickly told his people to remove the article. And then he said, what do you want to do? And Joanna said, I'll write the replacement. So she immediately wrote another article and Moses had it printed the next day. This is Joanna. When she feels a conviction, she doesn't wait, talk about it, think about it. She march into it and solve the problem.
Well, at least you can remember more than I can, Margaret. Good for you.
And another thing too is that these people that Joanna is mentioning, Candy Baules family, in my opinion, was the Cane Zone family in Palau. They got money through different means and ways that were not always ethical. And so when she says she's going to move into Candy's house, I thought, oh my gosh, are they going to survive? And somehow Joanna managed to meet all these Cane people that I would not witness to, or some of them are relatives, but I don't even want to deal with them. But she ended up witnessing to them, and actually they made a turnaround. So to me, this is really, like Joanna said, the children, there's a Cain and Abel. She actually pulled all the Cains in Palau and moved them around. So Baules family, now the eldest son is the president of the Senate and is very supportive. And also the Eserak family, you forgot to mention you stayed with Tosib Eserak's family, who's also another Cane Zone in Palau. And Joanna was able to love this family and also
Which one was that, Margaret?
Toshib Eserak. You stayed with his sister.
Oh,
Mihaina.
in that house that they couldn't afford to pay for, that one.
In Ngaramid, yes.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
Yeah, and so one thing I learned from Joanna that to this day that stayed with me is that when she and Georg would have their little episode, immediately afterwards, when everything's settled, she would say, let's go. And he would say, where are we going? We're going out witnessing. And he would say, for goodness sake, we have just finished fighting. How can we go out witnessing? And I remember hearing Joanna saying, yes, we are not perfect and we still have a long way to go, but the truth doesn't change. And if we give the truth to people, even though we're not there yet, they can connect to God and do something with their lives. And I thought that was brilliant. And by the way, Joanna stands on the foundation of some 300 ministers in her lineage. So when we discovered this, I knew that she has a force behind her that cannot be questioned. I'll leave Tib to say a
Thank
few
you.
things.
Thank you, Margaret.
You're welcome.
Joanna, you're
Unmute.
welcome. You're welcome to come back. We're in Ewell now. We have a big house here. We'll have to put a partition up, but we'll make you a room.
Right. Okay. I'll have to think about it. I'm not very mobile. I'm sort of, you know, I use 2 walking sticks or one of those walking frames with wheels on, and I can't walk very far. So it's quite quite tricky, and I need an electric bed, you know, one of these hospital beds that move around to get me in and out. It's difficult without it.
We
but,
can get
not
one. We can get one, no problem.
Okay. Well, if you can, that's a possibility, but I can't walk upstairs and steps. So this is the main problem in Palau. Everything is, the ground is uneven, and you have to, you know, usually to get into a house, you have to go 2'6" higher than the ground level to get in, but that's the real problem. But anyway, yeah, okay, thank you. I'll think about it. I mean, you know, anything is possible.
Thank you. We have Reverend Seti with his hand up, and then after Reverend Ito. Go ahead, Reverend Seti.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning.
Morning.
This is Hartl. Nice
Joanna
to meet
Hartl, that's right, yes.
Joanna.
Just call me Joe.
Joe.
Yeah.
Anyway, I just wanted to say thank you for the testimony, and one valuable thing I got from your testimony and also from Margaret's response is witness to the Cain realm. Sometimes we just go looking for the Abel realms in our witnessing efforts, but you know, as you say, yeah, also, you know, Cain needs to be loved and needs to be taken care of. I'm just thinking about our government situation here in Samoa. Some say we have a Cain realm government coming up, or now newly assigned to Samoa, new government here. But yeah, we have to change our mindset and go to all the places, including to those who we may consider as in the Cain realms. And also, thank you, Margaret. Truth doesn't change. So even if we're not thinking that our families are not fully ideal and fully chumbo, that yeah, truth must be given, and what we have needs to be shared. The pathway to heaven needs to be shared. So thank you for those 2 points. I wanted to thank you for that, and thank you for your investment in Palau, Joanna.
Thank you.
Thank you, Reverend Seti. Go ahead, Reverend Ito.
Thank you for Joanna. Sorry, I didn't know you. I also National Messiah to Marshall Island.
Oh, lovely.
Together with Jim and Marie-Françoise Michel, American, and Karl Leonhard Berger from Germany.
Oh, Carl Leonhardsberger, I know him very
Yeah.
well.
Yeah. He was a regional president in the Germany and Switzerland. Yeah, he's a
Yes.
painter. Yeah, I met him after he left. He lived in Japan and
Yes.
Yokohama. I met him after.
Hmm.
Anyway, I remember that through your testimony, the same moment I was there in Marshall Island. 1996 or 7, I went there at that time. 1997, I think July or June or July, in Guam, there's a Korean Air has a crash. Yeah, before the landing, they hit the hill, and many Korean, mostly Korean, and passed away. So right after I tried to go to the via Seoul, via I think Kimpo, and try to go to the Guam, and many family and government officials visit Guam, and just they came back and make an interview with a lot of journalists in the airport of Kimpo Airport. So right after I fly to Guam, that was a very sad, so sad story. I think this is a pilot was a former Air Force, so he don't know how to manage the passenger airplane like this.
Was about 200 people died, wasn't it? Something like that.
Also together with Mrs. Kim, together on the hill, we played together for that. Yeah, I remember that moment. Yeah, maybe Margaret know that at the time. I remember. And also Marshall Island, also so small society, like you said, everybody know everybody. So we
Yes.
no need in Marshall Island, we no need to greet. We looking like a behind, but they just, nobody, and no sign in the house, but this is a bakery, everybody know. So no need to sign.
Yeah.
Everybody know every place. And when I asked the president, Mr. President, where can I see you? He said, anytime. And where? Any place. This is the present answer. And we know because we must have only one road. So where the present car is there, that's the place where I meet. So anytime, any place, we can see this is, the appointment with the president. This is only Marshall Island can possible. Maybe Palau also a little bit, close such a relationship. And also, amazingly, since I get mission, I become very, World War II, after Pearl Harbor, there's a, Kiribati and Marshall and Micronesia and Peru, and the Guam, Saipan, Iwo Jima. And those things become expert, and I met many former soldier, yeah, remaining searching for remaining. Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, I'm very appreciated, so touched with your experience.
Thanks very much. Thank you. Go ahead, Greg.
Yeah, thank you so much, Joanna, for really responding to true parents, with such a heart and faith, and going to Palau and investing so much. When Jeff Fires and myself, we were assigned to Palau around 2003, 2004. We spent 3.5 years there and worked with Tim and Margaret. And many, many times we heard about you. You really created quite an impact, and we heard many, many, many times, many, many stories. Tim and Margaret often spoke about you, and but we never had a chance to meet you. But just want to really say thank you so much, and thank you for your lovely testimony this morning. I hope to meet you sometime in person.
Yes. Well, it's good to meet now, at least.
Yes, thanks. Thank you very much, Joanna. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. It's actually that time for us to offer our unison prayers. So just give me a moment to get the screen ready, and I'll share. And let's pray together. Adieu, adieu, adieu. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Joanna, for sharing with us. And
Thank you for inviting me.
thank you. Have a
Thank you, Joanna.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Nice to meet you.
okay. Bye-bye, all.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
See you next time. See you tomorrow. Bye.